Hi, shalom, friends. Sometimes making decisions is really difficult. Like the difference between vanilla ice cream and chocolate ice cream, they're both good. Or the difference between wearing this color tie, that color tie, and so on. Of course, I'm being frivolous. If I asked you to choose what is your favorite holiday, and I focused on two in particular, Purim and Pesach. You ask me, which one is your favorite? And you had to pick one of them. You would say, okay, let's see. Purim is very happy. Even the serious people let their hair down, so to speak. You could get dressed up in costumes. There's a lot of festivities, a lot of joy. And after all, the theme is great. The tyrant Haman was destroyed and the Jewish people lived happily ever after. Oh, but look at Pesach. Pesach is actually the wicked Pharaoh was humbled. The Jewish people were given freedom. And the whole mood of Pesach is actually of nobility. Even eating is not just an activity. It becomes a mitzvah. It's a ritual. In our tradition, we get nice clothing for Pesach. It's very dignified. There's a system. And then the way the rabbis put it is that every person should consider themselves to be nobility. So, oh my gosh, this is a difficult situation. Do I want to choose to be relaxed and celebrate? Or do I want to be dignified and aristocratic and celebrate? Well, thankfully, we don't have to choose. We're given both. If you go a sense deeper, you will actually see that Purim and Pesach are not only similar in theme and dissimilar in conduct, but actually Purim and Pesach are intertwined. First, we start with those that are more knowledgeable of the Jewish tradition. We have what's called a leap year. And in the Jewish tradition, we don't add one day every 4 years, but 7 times in 19 years, we add an additional month, 30 days. So we actually have 2 months before spring, instead of having only 1 month before spring, and I'm referring to the month of Adar. So the rabbis say if you have a leap year, you have 13 months of the year instead of 12, when should you celebrate the Purim? On month number 12 or number 13? Say the sages number 13. You know why? Because there's a connection between Purim and Pesach. Let's link the 2 months from the redemption from the wicked Haman to the redemption from Pharaoh. Okay, that's one connection. Those of you that are even more learned, remember the story that when Queen Esther comes to plead for her people to save their lives, the Jewish people are told to celebrate a 3-day fast. I use the word celebrate because in the time period, it was actually on Pesach. Indeed, the night that Queen Esther had a party with the king and the prime minister, that was the night of the Seder. So actually, on Pesach, the story of Purim was taking place. And when the king got upset with Haman, who was accused of trying to kill the queen in the king's presence, what did he say? Have him hung. When did that take place? Actually, on the day of Pesach. So it's wonderful. We have Pesach, the festival of liberation. We have Purim, the festival of deliverance. Not only do they both begin with the letter P, Pesach and Purim, but actually Purim, the miracle of the destruction of Haman, takes place on the same holiday in which Pharaoh will also be destroyed and humbled. Okay, so we don't have to choose. But I want to point out that just a thought, it's just really a thought for you to consider, that perhaps we do have to make a choice. Because there is one fundamental difference between Purim and Pesach. Purim, after the Jews were saved from the wicked Haman, and we had a Jewish queen, and we had a Jewish prime minister, since the days of Joseph, the Jews never had such a powerful advisor, the right-hand man in the sense of King Ahasuerus, who was the mighty potentate of the Persian Empire. Jews were respected, admired, and people were envious. They wanted to be Jewish. But after all said and done, where did they celebrate their Judaism? Under the Persian Empire. The temple was destroyed. Israel was desolate. And it was years after Purim that the Jewish people partially left the empire to rebuild the second temple. So actually Purim, this festive, wonderful, eternal holiday, celebrates redemption in exile, that the Jews are protected, admired, but they're still not independent. They're still under the physical and perhaps spiritual domination of a foreign nation. Pesach is completely different. Passover, we're out of Egypt. Where are we going? We're on the way to the promised land. How will we get there? We're going to stop by a mountain and hear the word of the living God, and then continue on our path to the promised land where we will live under the skies, blessed by God, in a land blessed by God, worshiping in a temple where God's presence is felt. Two holidays, a redemption in exile, another holiday, a redemption from exile. When you think about this coronavirus, which is affecting every single human being on the planet, and it's not anymore something that happens elsewhere. Everyone is impacted. Some really severe, with sickness and death, others with a complete disruption, others with, well, I don't have to tell you, you know this. When did this actually take place? To the best of my recollection, approximately Purim time. When is it coming to a head? Pesach, Passover, 6 weeks. And I'm thinking to myself, what do we want? What all of us want is this terrible plague for it to go away. That's what we all want. That's what we pray. That's what we're anticipating. But then I ask, and then what? What happens after? Well, it could be Purim. Afterwards, people will be more decent. They'll be more respectful. There'll be less arrogance. Nations will unite in order to avoid future problems. Hopefully, wars will diminish. And on a spiritual level, Jews will flock to their synagogues. They miss it. Jewish children will run to study Torah. They miss it. We will love to visit our older parents. We miss them. Families will be reunited and appreciate one another. The parks will be filled every Sunday. It will be Purim. The world will get better, more spiritual. The Jewish people will be better and more spiritual. The world will change for the better. But where will we be? In exile. Without the temple, without the independence, without the presence of God in a very real, tangible way. Or we could use this time, and we want this plague to be over, and then what? Well, then it's obvious. We don't want to go back to the restaurants, and we don't want to go back to the public arenas where people watch other people get tackled. And we don't want to fill our life with frivolity. And we do realize that coming home to an empty home where our valued independence was supreme. I'm not getting married. I'm not committing. I'm not bringing children to this world. They're going to interfere with my life and my pleasure and my desires. And now you're home. Is this the way you want to live the rest of your life? Alone? Or do you want to fill it with another partner and with children and with meaning? I think God is saying, listen, God will certainly change everything for the better because He is orchestrating everything. But He's allowing us to make a choice. You want a Purim, you want a Pesach. I somehow think, almost jokingly, that the debate whether or not to wear a mask if you're healthy. In some countries, everyone is wearing masks. In this country, it has not yet been advocated that if you're healthy, you need a mask. When do we wear masks? In Judaism, on Purim. It's almost like you want Purim or you don't want Purim. Let me end off. I hope, though it's a somber message, it's not a sad message, because good things will happen. There's no question about that. I just think that for myself, and I'm truly speaking personally, for me, that's my biggest challenge. I know it's going to be over soon. But what has it taught me? To go back to the past, but better, or to look forward to a vision which is completely different? This Shabbat is called the Great Shabbat. It's the Shabbat before Pesach. It's the Shabbat that blesses redemption. Let's make the most of it. And when we make the most of it, and the Mashiach will appear, and we will have our temple, we will have our country, we will have our people, we will have a globe united in holiness, spirituality, and decency, Purim will still be felt. Purim will still be enjoyed. Purim will still be celebrated. But it will be celebrated in a form of Pesach. Shalom.